Good evening, everybody. I trust you've all had a lovely Easter holiday weekend. Good evening, Denise. Are you well?
Good evening, Kay. How are you? Had you a nice Easter?
Absolutely. Very, very good. It's lovely and sunny here today as well, which is just an added bonus, isn't it, really?
Well, absolutely. I think Storm Dave blew us all away over the weekend here in Ireland, but we had a lovely day today as well.
Good. So, welcome everybody to week 4 of the Resilient Advantage Live. And tonight we are going to be getting into something that a lot of people feel but they don't always stop and question. They might feel it, but they don't question it. And that's why your results aren't matching all of that effort that you keep putting in all of the time. Because if you're anything like the people that Denise and I speak to every single week, you're probably not sat there doing nothing, because I'm sure that you'd be showing up, you'd be working hard, you're doing all of the things, using all of the strategies, and on paper, life should be amazing. But actually, when you look at the results that you have in your life, whether that's in your work, in your energy, your lifestyle, or even just how you feel on a day to day basis, it's probably not matching all of the effort that you're putting in. And instead of questioning what's really going on underneath all of that, most people just think that they need to just push a little bit harder, do a little bit more, or figure out a better way, another strategy. So tonight, we're going to show you what's actually driving your results so that you can stop getting stuck in that cycle and actually start creating something that actually reflects that level that you know that you're capable of. Now, whether you like it or not, your results tell a story about you. And I'm not just talking about the results that, we maybe want everybody else to see, the things that we put on social media, what you say that your life's like. But what I'm talking about is actually what it's like to live day to day in your world. And that's in your energy, in your health, maybe in your relationships or your work, that job that you go to every day that you don't like, how you feel when you wake up on a morning, and how you feel when your head hits the pillow at night, and everything in between as well. Because your results always leave clues. And the question that most people never ever ask themselves is, how am I actually getting these results? We're not talking about blaming work, we're not talking about blaming people or blaming circumstances, but actually taking a look at yourself and saying, like, what am I actually thinking about every day?
Mm-hmm.
What am I repeating to myself every day? What am I creating in my life every day? Because the things that we're thinking and the way that we're feeling every single day shows up in our results, whether we like it or not. And that's in those, ways that we don't even recognize sometimes, do we? Like, we might be saying that we're exhausted, but then we still pick our phone up on a night time, and we're scrolling social media, even though you know you've got an early start in the next morning. But you pick it up again as soon as you wake up in the morning. So you're constantly responding to the outside world before you even get out of bed. Or maybe you might be sitting in a meeting and you're not saying what you really want to say or what you think. And then on a night time, you're just replaying it all in your head, thinking about maybe what you should have said. Or maybe you're telling yourself that you need to look after your health, you need to get healthier. But by the time you get home from work, you're completely wiped out. So you go for what's easy in the fridge. You tell yourself you're going to start properly next week. Or maybe you're saying that you want more money, you want more freedom, you want more time. But actually, you're staying in the same patterns, you're making the same decisions, because it feels familiar, and then you're wondering why nothing actually changes. And that's what we mean when we say that your results are being created every day, whether you're aware of it or not.
Mm-hmm.
So, Denise, like the reality is that people are not coming to you every day saying, oh, I don't like my thinking. They're coming to you with symptoms. So when you actually work with those people, you're not just looking at the symptoms, though, are you? Because you're looking at actually what's going on underneath that. So can you tell me what that looks like for you?
So generally when people come to the clinic, it's, I have anxiety, or I'm not sleeping, or I'm completely overwhelmed, I'm burnt out. And when we dig down into that, the reason is because it's their habits and beliefs. They believe that they have to do everything for everybody else. They have to overextend at work. They have to bring the kids to the pitch. They have to cook the dinner. They have to do the laundry. It's the people pleasing aspect of it. And also, people say, I feel like a doormat. And this is then, I'm like, okay, well, why do you feel like that? Why don't you say no? Or, why don't you say, I'm not in a position to take on this extra work? And it comes from, well, number one, they don't want the tension or the conflict that would come with that. They just want to keep the peace. And I also find it's a case of that they just don't want to feel like they're letting other people down, but instead they're letting themselves down because they're not honoring themselves and how they feel. They're always sacrificing themselves, and then they end up in the burnt out state, the digestive issues, heart palpitations. All these things are real things that I see every day. And ultimately, when we dig down deep into it to understand what's going on right down there underneath all of that, it's the suppression of the emotions that they're feeling. And that is coming from, maybe it's driven by society, or, how there were, as an upbringing, that you had to always do everything. You didn't, you shut up and put up, right? So that there's a lot of that. We, me and you can both identify and attest to that we've all experienced that at some point in life. But until we ultimately deal and address those maintaining causes, those paradigms, you can't possibly change or break the cycle. What I find here in my clinic is we'll do remedies, we'll put positive things in place, we'll work on the boundaries, and everything will be going fine for maybe even 6-7 months, maybe even to a year sometimes. But then those old habits and beliefs start to creep back in, and then we end up reverting to where we were. And I was in that cycle myself until I discovered this material, and now I have really found permanent change to the habits and beliefs that I once had. And it is a process, it is a journey. But I do think that by embracing and doing that work, you can really bring about permanent change. And I suppose that's what I really want to impart to people this evening, is that to make permanent, lasting, long-lasting change, we have to be willing to put in some work, to have the faith and belief in ourselves that we can change and that we can have the life that we want. And that, believe it or not, we can say no to things if we believe they're not for us, they don't serve us. And all the stuff that happens on the outside, that's not on us. That's somebody else's interpretation then. So if we're saying no from a place of protecting our own energy, protecting ourselves, or doing what makes us feel content and happy, obviously without neglecting our responsibilities to children and things that we must do, but we can still have a healthy relationship and boundaries around that. And it's been able to have the life that we want in a way that is not detrimental to our own health and to our own needs and wants, because we can have it all. We are the creators of our own reality, and it's up to us to take those steps, to make the decision to want to change, Kay. And that's the thing that I find most people struggle with. It's they make the decision, but then it's like, oh, I don't know how that would work now. Or, they start to wonder about the how and what ifs. And honestly, we need to move away from that as a society, because that's not going to bring change. The only way that we're going to bring change is by deciding for ourselves, I don't like what this looks like anymore, and I want to change it. And me and Kay, have the tools that can help you to do that.
Yeah.
And would you see this, Kay? Do you see this in your clinic?
Yeah, absolutely. And you know, the bit that you said there, where you said about, you know, where you see emotional suppression, that's what I see all of the time with the people I work with every single day. People are just holding everything in. They're like pushing the emotions to one side and then living in that constant state of pressure.
Yeah.
And, you know, they probably don't know that their nervous system is dysregulated. They probably don't know anything about the nervous system, but they'll be feeling it in the body. You know, they'll be feeling that, what I always call that rushed energy, that sense of like everything's urgent, that sense of like constant pressure to do more all of the time. And like you said, you know, people feel it in the chest, in the heart beating faster. It's more intense. The chest might feel tight. Maybe the tummy is like a washing machine. And often the head, you know, people's heads can feel like a washing machine too.
Yeah, and it's funny you say that. I actually had a text message today. Is there anything in the box that I can take for the dishwasher effect on my tummy, or the washing machine effect on my tummy? Like, it's every day, and it's different scenarios for everybody. You know, different things will trigger for different people. And this is what we need to address, because if people are in that fight or flight up here, you know, the central nervous system is completely out of whack. You're going to feel completely stressed. You can't think straight. And then, as Kay says, the mind is going 100 miles an hour. That is probably the most prominent thing that I see here is my mind doesn't stop. It's constant. I'm reliving the conversations. Oh, I should have said this. Oh, I should have done that. Next thing, they're out in a sweat because their body is responding to what's happening in the mind. I'm sweating. Why am I sweating? It's because they've worked themselves up into a state internally without even realizing that that's what's happened. And I think I really, along with yourself, Kate, these are things that we really need to highlight so that people can honestly press pause and say, okay, is this happening in my life? Because if it is, please reach out to us. Have a conversation with us. Tell us what's happening for you, and we will support you as much as we can. Between all of the modalities and, you know, skill sets that myself and Kay have, I mean, it's a no-brainer, really, Kay. We cover all aspects, the mental, physical, and emotional, with a number of different modalities. We can calm the nervous system with breathing. We can help slow the mind down. We can help you with the symptoms on the emotional level, on the physical level. So all of that, you have to recognize that this is happening to your body, and even just by having the awareness is not going to change it. You have to make the decision and take actual steps to make a change for anything to change. We can all be aware of it, but that doesn't change anything.
Yeah. And I suppose you'd probably be the same as me, that, you know, you'll see that when people come to you, that they're probably not even aware of what they're thinking of day to day. You know, they're not even aware of what's going on in the mind. They're just constantly reacting to life. Is that what you find as well?
Yeah, like sometimes, like I have some questions that I'll ask during a consult, and you know, we'll be talking away about what's going on the physical level, and then I'll say, okay, does your mind race? Like, oh yeah, and like, does that happen at a specific time of day? Oh God, yeah, when I get into bed, yeah, my head just starts going and going and going and going. I'm like, okay, and how long would that maybe last for? Oh, I'd be tossing and turning for 1 to 2 hours every night before I sleep. Now, I have been able to successfully help people using homeopathy to quiet the mind, and they come back to balance. But what I do find is over a period of time, then that starts to slip again because the maintaining cause is there. That hasn't been addressed. So whilst you get healing and it lasts for a certain length of time, what I'm noticing more and more is that it's not lasting permanent. It's coming back up because the habits and beliefs are still there. So I believe until we truly address those and say, right, what is this? What is that what is that habit and belief for you that's driving that, so that we can really get in there, rewire it, understand it, identify it, work on it, and then bring you to a lasting place of, right, now that is done and dusted. But it does take time, and it is a process. And that is the piece that I really want to get across to people, is that it's not a switch. It does take time. It does take some faith and belief in yourself. You will have some wobbly days, but that's what we're here for. We're here then to support you through those wobbly days. And I suppose to have the persistence in yourself to say, right, I am and I want to do this. But you have to have all things together: the faith, the belief, the desire to really want to change, and then persistence is there. And then you have myself and Kay coming in. We've got the accountability, we're giving you the support, but alongside that, we're bringing our other modalities. We have our breath work, we have meditation, we have kinesiology, we have homeopathy. We're bringing all of these tools together to help you to bring about permanent and lasting change. And I'll tell you guys, and I say it every day, and I know Kay is going to laugh when I say this, but you literally will need a telescope to look back when you finish this, because you'll be like, wow, how different is my life? And you will see the results on the outside, and you'll wonder why you waited so long to make the change. That's one thing I would say that I find in my own personal life, from the changes that I have, worked on, the things that I've changed in my life. I do sometimes say, how did it take me so long to find this material and, to make all these changes? Because what I have in my life now is absolutely amazing. I get to work with clients, but I also get to do it in times that suit me. It works around my family. I have my health. I work on my terms, and that's a nice way to feel. I don't feel always stressed constantly, trying to be somewhere from 9 to 5 and trying to be on the side of the hurling pitch or wherever, So I think we can all have what works for our lives at a point in time. And I think we can do that in a way that's balanced. It might not all be there tomorrow, but it's something that we can all work towards gradually. Would you agree with that, Kay?
Yeah, completely. And like you say, you've done the work, I've done the work, and people do the work at different levels. Some people work with the mind first, some people work with the body first. And really, as long as you're doing something, as long as you're actually prepared to make the changes, because I started with the mind, but then I had to go to the body because my body was holding on to so much that I wasn't even aware of. And a lot of people think that they can just go straight to the mind and then it doesn't work. But if that's the case, that's because your body needs to feel safe first, so that it can come out of that high alert state, because your body is, like the electrical wiring system is of your nervous system, that is activated all the time. And if your body is switched on, your mind can't switch off. So in the work that I do, I create space for people to actually just step away from that constant noise and pressure, the meetings, and, into a space that's just for them, and a place where there's nothing they need to do in that moment. There's nobody that they need to impress. There's no problems that they need to solve. And we actually start in that space by releasing that pressure, and we create capacity within the nervous system. And then we look at the thinking once we've got that capacity in the body. Because, we know that leadership doesn't start in your title, in your name, all of those things. It actually starts in your body and in your mind. And again, if, we're being honest with ourselves, most of what is creating the results that we see in our lives, it doesn't start at work. It starts at home. And it might start with, maybe the argument that didn't get resolved, or maybe with the child who maybe needs more time than you feel you've got to give in that moment, or the loved one who you leave at home every day that you're actually really worried about, or maybe you've suffered grief and you haven't even had time to feel that, and all the pressure to just hold it together all of the time. And what normally happens is you show up at work, you've got a plan, you've got the goals, you've got your face put on, But rarely does anybody ever see what it takes for you to get there some days. You know, and the truth is that what happens at home doesn't stay at home. It lives in your nervous system and it follows you into the meeting rooms. It follows you into the decisions that you make, in the different ways that you lead. And, you know, the way I work with people is we start in the body first, and I teach people how to give their body permission to feel it, not to fix it, not to explain anything, just to be able to release it from the body, from the nervous system. Because until you deal with what's underneath, like you say, we just keep managing the symptoms and your results are going to stay exactly the same. So, you know, if we bring it to our audience tonight, and if you ask yourself right now, when you look at your own life, what are you trying to fix on the surface instead of actually looking at what's creating it? And let us know in the chat wherever you're watching us from. Because what I find is that once you've created some space in the body, and once the body's settled even slightly in your nervous system, then we look at the mind. And that's the bit that most people have never really looked at, have they? We know ourselves. So I'm asking everybody who's watching us now, have you ever actually stopped and asked yourself what your thoughts are about your life? Not the ones that you're saying out loud, but, you know, that little inner critic.
Yeah.
The one that's running quietly in the background every single day. You know, what are your thoughts about money, about your lifestyle, about your career, your relationships, about you, about yourself? Because most of us have got that inner critic who just never shuts up all day long. Because that's
it's so true, Kate. It's so true. So many people say to me every day, you know, about the, oh, you know, this is happening on the inside, or I always hear the voice, or like that, as you say, the emotion is pushed so far down that once they actually take the 5 minutes to step out of their everyday life, like when they step in here to my clinic, the floodgates open, or all the anger comes out because they've just held it all in until they felt like they've had a safe space to let it out. So guys, I really want to reiterate what Kay is saying. Tell us, you know, tell us in the comments, have you ever felt like that? You know, have you ever just, you know, pushed it all down? Or maybe right now you're feeling like that you've pushed it all down. And if that's the case, please do reach out to us, DM us, whatever suits you best. But please do reach out to us, because we are here to tell you that it's okay to let your emotions out. It's okay to let that anger out. Because if you continue to push that down, you are going to create lots of physical ailments, lots of, you know, your system's going to live in fight and flight all the time, as Kay has said. So as Kay said, please do reach out, leave us a message in the comments, tell us what is going on, and we can help you. We can give you as much help as you want, be it a one-off tip, this is what you need, this will help you, or if you really want to, you know, make permanent lasting change, you can come and work with us and achieve real change in your life, which will be long lasting and permanent.
Denise, why do you think that, you know, if somebody really wants to change and they, you know, they know what to do, they're prepared to work hard for it, but they still find themselves back in the same place? Why does that happen? What's going on underneath that?
Okay, I think it goes back to what we were saying just, you know, a few minutes ago. It's the habits and beliefs are there, and they're so deeply ingrained from, you know, we have to remember they're formed for, okay, genetics plays a factor, right? But so also does all of those experiences that we've had through childhood and all the environments we've been in up to this point in our lives, right down to this moment in time. And all of those things feed into our habits and beliefs, which dictate how our behavior shows up on the outside. So those habits and beliefs determine how we are going to react to things here on the outside. But it all happens on autopilot. We don't realize that it's happening until it's happened, and then we're like, okay, why am I putting on weight? Why am I always fighting with Johnny? Why am I always fighting with Kay? Why can't I seem to get ahead and get that promotion at work? Gosh, I'm always working 80 hours a week. How come nobody else does that? But guys, if we take a step back and look and say, right, why am I doing those things? Okay, so why am I working 80 hours a week? Well, where does that come from? You know, where did that, like, did someone stand over you and say you had to work those 80 hours a week? No. As the person who was guilty of that myself, nobody ever stood there and said I had to do it. It was something deeply ingrained in me where I always felt I had to be working, giving everything 110%. Now, I still give, when I do a task, I still give it 110%. But I now realize that it was all of my habits and beliefs from, you know, my upbringing and the different environments that I was exposed to, that my belief was that in order to be seen as a good worker, you have to be constantly working. Now we all know that's not true, but that's what I was telling myself for many, many years. So this is what I'm saying, Kay. This is why, until we actually stand back and go, right, logically, why do I think that way? Where did that come from? And then we have to basically rewire that and say, right, it's actually okay for me to press pause. It's totally normal for me not to want to work 80 hours a week. And it is, you know, so it's identifying it first and then standing back and looking at maybe where that came from. But the most important thing is rewiring that. And there's loads of ways and means to do that. And me and Kay have all those tools, but we'd be here all night if I was to dig into all of those. But they're not hard by any means. But you just have to be willing to say, right, yes, I identify this as the issue. This is why the same pattern keeps showing up for me, and I want to fix it. You don't need to worry about the how. We have the how, don't we, Kay?
We certainly do. And I just wanted to...
How do you see this? How do you see the maintaining causes and the paradigms constantly? You know, do you see them coming back up in your clinic? What do you see with regards to that?
Yeah, absolutely. Because, you know, people, first of all, for me, haven't done the body work. So the nervous system is running the show all the time. So you've got the nervous system, and then you've got the mind and the paradigms. And, you know, when we talk about paradigms, not everybody even knows what that is, you know, and a paradigm is literally a set of thoughts, habits, and beliefs, and that you've picked up over time. Normally from a young age, like you say, you know, through what you saw, what you were told, what you experienced, and how you adapt to that. And we don't have it, it's not something that we choose. We don't decide that we're going to have these habits and beliefs, but they just get formed over that time when you're very, very young. And we repeat them again, until, like you said, they do become automatic. So now what people don't recognize is that those habits and beliefs are running in the background all the time without them even realizing it. And those paradigms don't just affect how you think, they affect the things that you do, the actions that you take, the things that you don't do, you know, what you decide to go after, what you avoid, or what you believe is possible for you. And even the things that you'll accept or the things that you won't accept in life. So those paradigms really are shaping your results in every single minute of the day. And to sort of make it real for our audience, really, we could just ask them to actually look at their own life right now and ask yourself, you know, when you look at your results in life, are they where you want them to be? And that's, you know, is your energy good? Are you feeling focused? Are you feeling calm all the time? You know, are your relationships all really good? Whether that be intimate relationships, family relationships, friendships. Do you have loads of time? You know, ask yourself those things. And then once you have an understanding of what your results are right now, ask yourself, what have you been consistently thinking about and repeating and doing that have actually created those results? Because we don't always want to look at the results, but that's the truth of it. When we, maybe don't have much money in the bank, that we might be checking our bank account and thinking, oh my goodness, it's not payday till next week. Where am I going to get some money from? I'll tell you what, when I get this money, I'm going to pay that bill. You don't actually realize till you stop and look at your results, recognize where those results are coming from your thoughts, your habits, and your beliefs. And actually, if you have a lack mindset like I did around money, where money didn't grow on trees. That was something I heard all the time. Money doesn't grow on trees. We don't have enough money for that. You can't be spending it on this. You've got to work really hard all the time. And if you work really hard and you work all the hours and you get the good career and all the rest of it, then you'll be successful. But actually, having those beliefs, first of all, create thoughts in your head, because they are on automatic. You're not aware of them. So when I'm, looking at my bank account thinking that, how am I going to pay the bills? That is focusing on lack. So from that thought, it creates a feeling within us that feeling is, probably a feeling of panic or anxiety or lack, or, whatever the physical feeling is for us. And when we feel like that, then we're going to take action. So are we going to take action that's going to move us forward? Or are we going to take action when we're not feeling very good, where that action isn't going to help us moving forward? And it's just having that awareness initially that that's what's creating everything for you. Because when you can actually see that, and you can look at your thoughts and understand how they're making you feel, and understand how you feel makes you take actions, and those actions create your results, and then they reinforce the beliefs again. And the truth is, until you actually become aware of the patterns, you're just going to keep repeating them. Not because you're doing, anything wrong, you're just not aware, because that's all your system knows. And, you've already said, Denise, this is the exact work that we've been doing deep, in our own lives. And that's what we've actually learned through mentorship with Kim Calvert, understanding properly how results are created, and more importantly, how to change them. And, as we've said today, that's not by doing more, it's not by working more hours, but it's by changing what's driving everything underneath. So as we close this off tonight, Denise, I just want, our listeners to just take a minute and really be honest with themselves. Ask yourself and let us know, wherever you're watching, if your results aren't where you want them to be right now. It's not because you're not trying hard enough. It's just because something underneath hasn't changed yet. And the reason that you and I speak so much about this, Denise, with so much certainty and so much passion, is because we've done it ourselves. We've seen what happens when you actually understand what's driving your results, and then you can start to change them properly. So if something has hit home for you tonight that, we've spoken about here, don't just go back into the same routine and tell yourself, oh, you'll sort it all out later, because that right there is the pattern. Do something right now. Message me, message Denise. Just start a conversation. Book a call with us. Let us actually look at what's going on for you in your life and what needs to change. And I'm sure you've probably heard, every week about Denise and I talking about, the 12-step pathway of Kim's, which is the path to achievement that Denise and I facilitate. But I thought tonight instead, I wanted to bring you an absolutely brilliant opportunity, because Kim Calvert is actually running a 1-week preview. And that's running from the 13th to the 18th of April. And basically what that means is that you can step into a whole week live with Kim Calvert, who is a renowned leader, one of the greatest minds in the world, who actually creates real results for people. And she's one of the most powerful people. And you get to experience her coaching people live. You're going to see how quickly that she identifies what's really going on for people, that gap between, where people are now and where they want to be, and how to bridge that gap and start changing things straight away. So instead of just sitting there wondering if this is going to work for you, just step into it, experience it, and then then you'll be able to make a decision from that place of actually trying it out, from that place of knowing, from that place of being in the material. And that's why this is such a perfect next step for you, because you're not actually committing to anything long term. You're just stepping into a week that's going to show you exactly what has been missing for you. So if something in you is thinking, I need to do something different, then what are you waiting for? Come and join us inside the preview. We're going to drop the details under this video. Get yourself in the room. Come and see for yourself and join us in there. So as usual, Denise, thank you so much for joining us again this evening. I hope you have a brilliant week. I hope all of our listeners have a brilliant week, and we shall see them all again, same time next week.
Absolutely, Kate. And as always, it's an absolute pleasure to have these chats with you. And again, thank you to everybody who's listening this evening. We will see you all next week.
Take care. Have an amazing week.